Good morning, my magnificent friends. Sue here, your magnificence mentor, and welcome back to Tea with Sue. I have a big topic today. I don't know how far we'll get with it, but we can always revisit it at some point. The topic today is releasing unworthiness. So I looked up the dictionary definition of, well, what do they say worthiness is? And I can't say I was all that satisfied with their definition because I think of worthiness differently than that. But their definition was, let me read it here. Oh, good enough, suitability. Okay, let's go with good enough. Well, it's interesting when I think about creation. And when our Creator put human beings on planet Earth, or beings in human form, do you suppose that Creator just woke up and said, well, I'm going to put these beings on planet Earth, and in human form, they're not going to be worthy. They're going to need to strive for centuries to measure up in order to be considered part of my family, part of the kingdom. And I doubt that happened. And certainly any of you who have read your Bible, and it says that we were created in God's image. Well, as one t-shirt read that I saw, God don't create no junk. Well, look around you, look at the magnificence that we have on planet Earth. The mountains, the rivers, the lakes, the nature, animals, birds, human beings. We are all magnificent. So I think that the next leap of belief that I have in that is not only are we all magnificent, but we are all born worthy, worthy of everything that we aspire to, worthy of love, worthy of all good things, worthy of freedom, of financial freedom, worthy of the ability to explore and expand our talents, to enjoy one another, to laugh, to cry, to express all our emotions. So we already were born worthy. However, I suspect that there is not one person on the planet who does not feel even a little bit at some point or in some way unworthy. Well, why is that? How did that get seeded? If we were born magnificent and born worthy, how in the world did we move to a place of unworthy and pretty quickly? Well, it has to do with judgment. We judge ourselves and each other all the time. Now, if you grew up in a family of more than one child, so if you were not an only child, then pretty early on, if you had a younger or older sibling, the comparison started. And maybe based on the way you were treated versus the way your sibling was treated, you assumed, rightly or wrongly, that mom loved your sibling better than you, that somehow you didn't quite measure up. You weren't as worthy of her time and attention as he or she was. And of course, chances are pretty good your sibling was thinking exactly the same thing about you. And so the sibling rivalry started, right? Well, mom loves you better and I never got, or whatever, or dad loves you better. And then the fight's on, right? And I know people who have had brothers and sisters and they're well into their 70s and 80s and even 90s, and the rivalry still continues. Oh, well, she thinks she's all that, or well, he never. And you go, whoa, hold the phone here. And so I look at this and I'm highly amused by it, while also knowing how I bought into that without even realizing it when I was very, very small. So there were decades when I was old enough to think about it that I didn't feel I fit in my family because somehow I didn't quite measure up. I wasn't quite like them. And even though I carved my own path and I had my own successes, there was still this uneasiness and that kind of fraud syndrome. Well, if people really knew me, they wouldn't be happy with who I was. They wouldn't feel that I was any good because I've judged myself in some way, shape, or form to be unworthy. I don't make enough money. I'm not as successful as I could be. I'm not a celebrity. I don't have um, lofty goals or talents that just spring out and impress everybody. All these things that run through our minds to contribute and continue contributing to the unworthiness that is deep, deep seated. Well, this is an old, old wound, and it comes from eons of evolution, I guess you could say. So let's just pause for a moment. Tea is good at a time like this because I think it's important to examine our sense of unworthiness and look at what we have reaped by sowing that seed of unworthiness or having it sown for us. So I think when we were the littlest and couldn't really think for ourselves, we got bombarded with ways to think that we were unworthy just by the very factor of what we could or couldn't do, whatever we did that was bad, wrong, all those labels, or our inadequacies or not measuring up in some way. So we learned to feel not quite good enough. Well, if you only strive to improve. And did the teacher focus on when it was parent teacher night on, well, Johnny is just exceptional in mathematics and I'm so pleased with how well he completes his work. No, it's, well, Johnny needs to read more. He's not very good at English. And so the focus is on everything that you don't do well, with the goal of, well, if you just improve, if you just get to this point, then you'll measure up, you'll be enough. So the goal is here. But the trouble is the goal keeps shifting, right? The goal is here and you get there. And so our internal sense is, excuse me, some of the self-talk can be, well, my parents will love me more if I just get straight A's or just get straight B's or if I don't fail. And so maybe we reach that bar, but nothing changes. We don't feel any more loved because we got to that bar than when we were below the bar. So then we're, oh, now what? Well, what's it going to take? But nobody ever says what it's going to take, right? Because what's in our own minds is incorrect. Our parents love us anyway, whether we achieve monumental success or not. Do they want us to do better because they want us to have a good life? Of course they do. But I think deep in their hearts, it doesn't really change their fundamental love for us. So we need to adopt a similar perspective and say, wait a minute, if I'm looking at life and looking at myself, I'm looking at myself as enough. I am enough and complete all on myself, right here, right now. And that label becomes, I am worthy. Well, if we start from that perspective, if we say, okay, instead of saying, I'm unworthy and therefore I need to do all these things to become worthy, which I'm not sure is possible. I don't think we ever get there. I think the bar keeps raising into infinity, and we end our lives at some point when it's time to leave planet Earth, never quite feeling as if we lived up to our potential. And there's a disappointment that comes from that. Fear is a big part of this whole thing. Well, how can we be our most creative selves if fear is running in the background? Oh, I don't know if I can do it. Oh, I don't think I can measure up. Oh, I'm going for an interview with this really great job, and I'm not sure I'm worthy of it. And what if there's somebody better than me? And it sets up a tone of frantic unease inside of us that does not contribute to our joy, and certainly does not contribute to our well-being. So, and physiologically, it's harmful to our bodies. Well, when it's harmful to our bodies, then our minds and our spirits take a plummet, right? So what do we do then to release this unworthiness? I thought about words that would, are we combating it? Are we conquering it? What are we doing with unworthiness? Well, I'm not so sure that fighting against unworthiness is the right approach. But I think looking at being, first of all, becoming aware of how unworthy do I feel. Now, let me give you a very 2x4 example of my own in facing my own unworthiness. So I had been cancer-free after some pretty aggressive treatment for about 8 months. And then the cancer came back in exactly the same spot. Well, I was totally back into fear. I was angry. I was upset and feeling very, very discouraged. And of course, up to that point, I had, umpteen dozen people who were cheering me on and supporting me and wanting the best for me. And I was on prayer lists all across North America and probably places I didn't even know about. And when I got the second cancer diagnosis, my heart just sank, and I thought, and the first words out of my mouth were, I don't want to even tell anybody that that the cancer has come back because I failed. I'm not worthy of anybody's time and attention anymore. Well, I heard myself say those words right out loud. And I'm going, what? I would never think that about anybody else who was facing a second bout of cancer. I would want to support them even more and say, well, what else can I do? And how can I help? And don't give up. Let's carry on here. What can we do? And I'm thinking, and yet I'm ready to just say to them, not even let them know, not even ask for more support. What is that all about? So of course, that was all about unworthiness. And I thought, wow, what has led me to believe that I'm not worthy of anyone else's time and attention, that I can't ask for more support, more help, more whatever it is that I need? Well, that shocked me. And it shocked me almost as much as the second diagnosis, let me tell you. So I knew then, okay, we have more work to do here. Of course, I knew that when cancer came calling for me, there were going to be lessons and there were going to be gifts. Well, here was the beginning of a huge gift, because I had not believed up to that point that I felt particularly unworthy. I hadn't really explored it, but I'd worked a lot on myself over the years, and I'd grown into my own skin and felt quite personally good about who I was and where I was at for the most part. So I didn't imagine that I had that level of unworthiness. So the work began at that point for me. Well, in no way, shape, or form do I believe that anyone needs to go through that kind of a 2x4 experience in order to get and understand where you're at from a worthiness perspective. So let's just assume for a moment that everybody on the planet feels unworthy in some way, shape, or form. And it could be a little bit or a lot, doesn't really matter. The seed is there and it's been planted and buried deep. So it's a wound that requires healing. Of course, in order to heal that wound, we first need to acknowledge that it's there in the first place. So you may want to spend some time thinking about, in what areas of my life do I feel that I don't measure up? How am I in relation to receiving? Am I a willing receiver, or do I say, no, no, I'm fine. I'm strong enough. You know, you look after yourself. I'll help you. I'll give, give, give. I don't need anything. I'm good. I'm fiercely independent, and that's the way I like it. Well, is that really true? So it's to question that and say, or am I afraid of receiving? Am I afraid of opening up to that vulnerable part of me that says, I could use some help here. I don't want to do it all by myself, or I don't feel I can do it all by myself. So could you give me a hand? And and of course, it opens us up to rejection for somebody to say, well, no, actually, I don't want to help you. Well, I don't find that to be the case. For the most part, people want to help. And when we ask for their help, they're quite grateful that you asked, because they want to give, and you can't give them an opportunity to give if you won't receive. So it works both ways. So if you block the flow, you give, 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 and never receive, then you block that flow of giving and receiving, and it doesn't serve anybody. So you don't want to be so wrapped up in yourself that you won't allow other people to give. Well, the only way they can give to you is by you being willing to receive. I was a grudging receiver for a while as I was practicing receiving. I didn't want to receive because it kind of hit my pride and my sense of, this fierce independence. It was hard to give up. But as I received more and more and got more used to it, I became more gracious. Thank heavens for that, because I I don't know why. Anyway, I was the way I was, and now I am so grateful when people help me, I feel good about myself. I feel joy that I can more easily ask for help when I need it. So a dear friend, when I told her I was getting my tires swapped out from winter to summer, she just volunteered and she says, well, I'll come help you get your tires in your car if you want. And I'm going, what a gift. And I was so grateful. She just came right over and hefted them into the car just like they didn't weigh anything, and they're heavy with the rims still on them. So I was grateful that I asked, and I was so grateful that she offered, and it worked out beautifully. So There you go. Worthiness. So being worthy to receive. So I wrote down um, a couple of things. So some signs of unworthiness as you explore this whole realm of how you feel about worthiness inside you. So some of the signs that you can look for would be, do you tend to be self-sacrificing? You do things for everybody else at your own expense so that your own needs are left in the dust over and over and over. So I would call that overgiving. Do you have tendencies towards perfectionism, that nothing is ever good enough? Well, I have to do it better and it's not good enough and so on. Well, at some point, that's a worthiness issue. If we refuse to recognize our own self as a human being, so that means who do we show up as? Do we honor our talents, our abilities? How much do we love ourselves? And when I ask people to write 100 things that they love about themselves, most people can't get past 5. Well, there's way more than 5, but we don't give ourselves credit for what we know and who we are, and we don't value ourselves in the same way we might value. Look at how much hero worship there is going on in our world. All the celebrities, all the, the hockey players, the football players, the actors, the people who are wealthy, we give them, people who have degrees up the yin yang, and you go, oh, well, they're way better than I am. I'm this lowly. Well, what is it that says that the billionaire CEO is worth more than the janitor of the company? What says that the doctor is worth more than the orderly? Well, what says? Well, society says, we say, because we judge. And we judge the homeless person sitting on the street corner. Well, they should go out and get a job. We don't know what kind of life they have lived. And maybe their highest growth on planet Earth, and the highest growth for us, is for them to experience homelessness and for us to see who we are in relation to that homelessness. So there's always, nothing happens by chance or accident. There's a divine plan that kind of weaves through who we are and how we connect with one another. So if you spend some time thinking about, where am I in relation to unworthiness? And then the flip side of that, of course, is saying, how do I release unworthiness? How do I move into the position where I begin to feel worthy? Like that's the place I'm coming from, a starting place. So the first thing I would suggest, that it starts with entertaining the thought of, what if I am already enough? So where would you go from here with your goals, with what's important to you? If you already said, well, I'm already enough, but is there something I might enjoy doing? Do I want to push the envelope a little farther? Because I'm already at a place that's great. Well, what could I do? Do I want to do anything else? And then move from there, rather than from the perspective of, well, what if I'm not enough? And oh man, I got to measure up. And so the other part, wait, what if I'm already deserving? What if I already deserve all the love that I've ever desired? What if I don't have to do anything? Just the fact that I'm here on planet Earth, I deserve all the love that's coming to me. And it's abundant. It's hugely abundant. What if I already deserve financial freedom? I don't have to do anything for it. I already deserve it. So that's one thing is to change your perspective, change your mind. You have control over your mind. You might not have control over much else, but your mind you do have control over. You might have to keep bringing it back to, no, I'm looking at it from being worthy. I'm already worthy. I already measure up. Now, the second thing might be, and here's where the list comes in, start noticing what's lovable about you. What specific things contribute to you being enough? And there's lots that's lovable about you. I guarantee it. And if you're not too sure, ask people that love you, that you trust, and get them to tell you, and they will. So make your list. If you can get to 100, well, you've right on. You have more than 100, but that's something you can do. Number 3, I suggest that you start forgiving yourself for any of your less than worthy thoughts and your less than worthy actions. Life is an experiment. We make mistakes. We take wrong turns. We go down paths that didn't feel like they served us. Well, forgiveness of all of that, when we can forgive ourselves for anything we did or didn't do, anything we said or didn't say, all of that contributes to our sense of I'm enough, I am worthy. So there's that. Forgiveness is a huge piece of this. And I think number 4 could be to look at questioning your reasons for your actions. Why are you entertaining the idea of doing something, one thing or another? Of course, if you come from a perspective of, well, I have to do it in order to measure up, it could be a different, or I'm too fearful not to do it. Or what will people say if I don't do it? They will think less of me, which of course contributes to unworthiness, right? So then we wanna say, well, why would I do this? Well, if I start from a place of, okay, I'm enough, and how would doing this add to my life? Would it bring me more joy, more happiness, a sense of fulfillment, a sense of accomplishment or achievement? Why would I do that? Well, doing it for that reason, I think is going to seal a better outcome than coming from a place of, oh, I just have to take that course because I'm no good at that, and I feel badly that I'm not good at that, and so therefore I have to learn that. Well, it just sucks all the life out of you, and then maybe you enter that arena with resentment, and as a result don't get the best outcome. Oh, I knew it was going to be really hard, and I've struggled, and it's horrible, and I don't want to do it, and maybe you quit halfway, and then that contributes to more unworthiness. So really question when something's in front of you and you have a decision to make. Why do I want that new car? The car I have right now is perfectly fine. It drives well, it gets me from point A to point B. Yeah, but the neighbors have a better car. And I don't want the neighbors to look down on me because well, that's an entirely different reason from saying, you know what? Yes, the car I have is perfectly fine, but that car, I think I would have so much joy driving that car. And I just earned a nice big chunk of money, and I think that would be the best way to celebrate, by spending it on that. Different way of looking at things, and contributes to your sense of worthiness. So this week, let's take a look internally and externally at the idea of releasing unworthiness and adding to our own sense that we are enough, we are deserving, we are worthy just because we're here. You know you can do it. You know what I'm going to say, because you are that magnificent. So Give yourself the biggest gift you can and focus on how worthy you already are. And then just have the most fun you can have in your life, right? So that's it for today, Tea with Sue. I'm off to meet my son for his birthday lunch, which was a few days ago, but we're celebrating today. So I'm all tickled about that. He's one of my treasures in life, and that'll be exciting. So have yourself an amazing day, a glorious weekend. Do have a cup of tea to relax and enjoy life. If you like Tea with Sue, you can subscribe to my channel. You can download more Tea with Sue on my app, which is a free download, The Magnificence Mentor. And I love comments. I'm happy. If you have questions, then drop me a note and I'm happy to respond. Thank you, my magnificent friends, for being here today. It's a sheer joy to share with you every week, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Bye for now.